Welcome to the Screen the Screener College Basketball Podcast with your hosts, Mike Randall and Gus Kearns.
Welcome in, listeners, to the Screener College Basketball Podcast, where we're always talking everything college hoops. You could have been anywhere else on the dial, but you chose to be here with us, Mike and Gus, and boy, do we appreciate that. Mike, good to be back in the saddle. How's everything going over there? Happy holidays. Happy New Year, sir.
I mean, what is better than this? To hear the sweet, melodious tones of you back together again. It has been too long, my brother. Things are good. We're hitting the new year. College basketball is off and running. I'm winning bets. I'm losing bets. St. Mary's. Oh, my God. Everybody struggles with the home December games. You've talked about this, right? No one's there except for St. Mary's against Yale. No problem. Thank you, Randy Bennett. Thank you. Great to be back, man.
Oh, so good to be back. Nice to hear your voice as well. And listeners, we hope that you are enjoying hearing both of our voices back together for the first time in a little while. It took a little coordination, but here we are dancing again. Super thankful. Oh, my gosh. We got a lot of hoops to recap. Let's use the current information to reframe some of our preseason thinking. Let's dive right into this. We have a number of surprising college basketball teams that have found early success, like you said, St. Mary's being one of those against Yale at home during December, during the break, which is always a crazy time for anybody to figure things out. Who's one team that was not even on your Final Four radar preseason that has you thinking, yeah, this team's kind of legit. I like this team.
Easy for me. It's Arizona. And maybe it was because I was distracted by everything that went on last year. Tommy Lloyd, great lineage. I get it. No problem. Did not see this one coming. And to be fair, Gus, neither did the public because they were ranked fourth in the Pac-12 preseason poll behind Oregon, who, by the way, is 32.2 feet per second squared. But Dane Altman will get that going. No problem. But it's Arizona. They are dominant on both ends of the floor. They're big. They are the number one team in defensive interior defense. They are holding opponents, Gus, get this, to 39.3%. Remember our track days? We used to say those are the weird numbers, okay? When you heard like 50 feet in the triple jump. 39.3% from the interior while being fourth in tempo. They play fast. They play defense. They make shots inside. They're huge across the board. They are second in average height per KenPom, 79.3 inches across the board. Everyone has been great. I way undersold them, and I will tell you the game that I woke up on them. It was early on, the destruction of Michigan, and I was low on Michigan this year just because I thought there was going to be some regression. Fine.
Of course.
But the Illinois game, when they won that one away, and they took every punch that Illinois could have given them, great job, Arizona. I was way too low on them. They are a legitimate Final Four team.
No doubt on the legitimate Final Four team. When we talked to Alex White, and he broke down Arizona for us on the podcast, he broke out a number of different things. And you mentioned the lack of success for opponents on the interior. That is largely due to Koloko on the inside.
Yep.
He is playing unbelievably defensively. He's also making some nice advances on the offensive end as far as paint touches around the rim. And then when you have somebody like Ben Mathurin, who is legit NBA prospect, first-round prospect.
Excellent player.
Yeah, they have pieces everywhere. And we've talked about this before a little bit, where Tommy Lloyd, this roster is kind of like tailor-made for him with all of the different cultures and countries that make up this roster.
Yes.
That's exactly what his specialty was over with Gonzaga when he was in the second seat.
Yes.
It makes perfect sense to me. I think if I was going one way or the other, I think I'd stay at home here in the Big East. And I know these two teams just played, but I would look at either Seton Hall or Providence. I know they, we have the Willard, battle between you.
Guys, I want to put it out there. It's different this year. I was texting our friend Paul. He's like, "You're a Seton Hall hater." I said, "You're going to lose to Providence." He goes, "You're just a hater." I said, No. I have bet Seton Hall several times this year. I think they're excellent. Continue, please. Both teams, I agree with. Yes.
The dunk is a tough place to play. No, so I agree with you telling Paul, or one of our listeners, like, no shame in that. But I also think that they have length around the perimeter at every position to guard everything.
Yes.
They have a rim protector. They have a late clock shot maker with Aiken, who's now on his seventh season from Harvard, is a shot maker and 24, 25 years old. So he's mature enough. He's not going to have anything thrown at him that he doesn't understand. But I also think that this Providence seems interesting. Got Watson on the inside. Hochler is one of these intriguing players that is going to make a three, that's going to drive it on you. He might even block a shot on you. But we know that they're going to give their guards a ton of freedom on the offensive end and ownership on what they're going to do. So I'm going to stay home and say maybe Seton Hall or Providence might be one of those teams, depending on their draw, that you might be thinking this is a legit Final Four team.
Mrs. Randall and I watched Providence, Seton Hall the other night. Of course, we have a connection with Justin Minaya, who is really the quintessential fifth starter / sixth man, just does so many great things for the team. Seton Hall was shorthanded in this game. That's fine. Right. Seton Hall's also had some horrific luck. Team shooting, Gus, 80% from the foul line against Seton Hall. How about a little regression for that? That is almost last among all 359 Division I teams.
Has to be.
They have really played well. The win at Michigan was good. They also smacked Wagner around, who I think Wagner's very good this year. That should not
Wagner's okay. Yeah.
They beat Texas at home. They have length. You were on Jared Roden way before anyone else was. Pink sneakers, the whole thing. Absolutely is a shot maker, just like Aiken. So they have some options late game as well. Miles Kell came back after missing a few games. Agree with that. And Providence. How about Ed Cooley getting it going here? Very happy for him. 12-1, only team, Gus, I believe, in the country with 5 quad 1 wins already so far this year. True road win at Wisconsin. Down screen, back screen, they beat on a neutral by 18. Texas Tech by 4 at home was impressive. Beat Vermont by 10, Rhode Island by 16, UConn by 4, true road game. And now the Hall. Providence is rolling. Ed Cooley, Nate Watson inside. Totally great. And last thing I'll say, Jared Bynum makes a difference. First of all, Al Durham has been so valuable. You can make an argument he's one of the most valuable players in the country because he brings a different level to this team. But Jared Bynum, when he's healthy, his on-ball defense is so good. The man bun. I love it. Providence, very good.
I'm totally with you on his defensive impact.
Yes.
Talk about deflections. Talk about coverage on the perimeter. Yeah.
Much like your daughter. Yes.
12 deflections tonight in the championship game. Very nice. Let's go to one player. I know that you're kind of searching around and finding those, okay, where's the hidden nugget? Oh man, I can't believe this. And your coaching eye obviously picks those players out. So who's the one player that you find yourself checking the box scores for, scanning highlights, tuning into games just for that one particular player? Who's that guy?
Well, it's a couple. First of all, Jaden Ivey is at a different level. He came out of the summer dominating. He is rapidly moving up my draft boards, does everything for a Purdue team where Travion Williams did not start the beginning of the year. Zach Edey is a big who makes free throws. That's rare. And so I have loved watching Jaden Ivey. Anytime he's on, I have to watch him. I get the purpose of the question, though, is not a Purdue top-level team.
No.
Another guy I'll go for that I'm rooting hard for is Trace Jackson Davis. I know you're a fan of his. Indiana, you got to root for. He is starting to develop into that chip on my shoulder dominant guy, which is what he has to be, which is fantastic for them because I think he can carry Indiana, a program that is starving for postseason. Last one I will mention, let's head out to San Francisco, Gus. Jabari Boye and San Francisco, 13-1, folks. San Francisco under Todd Golden, great metrics coach. Love what he does. 13-1. Jabari Boye is making a case for an All-American team. Not first, maybe a third. They've had some very special wins. Coming up January 6th, Gus, we're about a week away, give or take, at Gonzaga. Going to be a fantastic game. But his ability there, guard ability, shoots the threes, controls the tempo. Love Jabari Boye. So those would be my three. I love Jaden Ivey. I think he's going to be an explosive top 10 player. Trace Jackson Davis is a guy I root for. He came back to Indiana, saved the program pretty much, and Jabari Boye out in San Francisco has the Dons at 13-1.
That is a good list. I love that list. Just my quick thoughts. Ivy, you know what I'm thinking when I see him play? This is your guy. I think Ja.
Oh, such a good comparison. Oh, yes.
Maybe not the sharing ability that Ja has, but I think he's as good a shooter. Yep. He's as explosive as an athlete. Cool. Trey Jackson Davis, I think anytime you're going to start with an All-America list, I think you have to include him somehow. Mm-hmm. And if you go back to Woodson's days with the Knicks, that's the last time the Knicks made the second round, and he based everything around Carmelo. So it's not surprising that he's going to base everything around Trey Jackson-Davis, and Indiana's going to find success. So that makes kind of perfect sense there. And then I think we both have a little crush on San Francisco, and Bouye is like doing amazing stuff on the wing. He's a bigger guard. I think he is also going to sneak up and find some NBA, interest and traction as we move forward. My guy, I'll just go singular here. Malachi Smith, Chattanooga.
Very good.
6'4" soft. His PER is over 30. It's only trailing his own teammate, Silvio De Souza. Yes, that chair-wielding former Jayhawk in the Southern Conference. He's putting up like Madden video game-like numbers thus far. I mean, he's averaging over 20 points. He's shooting at over 40% from three, well over 50% from the field, and doing just a little bit of everything for this Chattanooga team. So the Mocs have something working there with the big inside De Souza, but also a really talented wing in Malachi Smith. And, you mentioned Bouye. I think Malachi Smith is in the same boat where, NBA eyes are going to find this Chattanooga team for one reason or another, and they're going to be surprised when they see Malachi Smith and just how talented he is.
Yep. Chatta. Loved Chatta. And they had a big win tonight, Gus, by 30 points at home over East Tennessee State. Eye-opening win, 1-0 in the SoCon.
I think that might end up being a trend. Mike, with being busy with so many other sports elements, fantasy football, 4 for 4, do you think you can isolate a trend or two that's going to help the listeners when they're wagering college hoops now that conference season is upon us? What things can we apply? Is there a home court advantage? Does that hold a touch more weight with fans? Is there in-game coaching that you think might factor in due to the changing rosters? Or do we just trust like true talent at this point? What are you feeling?
Several things. First off, let's go down the teams who have been great against the spread. Death, Taxes, and Monmouth, by the way, who just ended their run against Hofstra. But they were looking, Gus, like Drake from last year. 12-1 so far, Monmouth, against the spread. Davidson, also very plucky on the road or home, 10-1 against the spread. Cornell, 8-1. Abilene Christian, 7-1. Maryland Eastern Shore, 7-1. New Hampshire, 6-1. Towson, 11-2. I've loved all those teams. Middle Tennessee State with a nice cover by a half point against Kermit down in Mississippi.
Saw that.
They are also 9-2. I believe in great coaches, and this is my weakness. It is right. I love great coaches who are undervalued getting points, especially with veteran teams. So I've been on Michigan State a lot this year. I think Izzo was way undervalued. Didn't cover last game, but they were missing a lot of guys because of COVID protocols. So good coaches are going to step up in these spots, and I trust them more with seniors coming back. I would say early on, Gus, with what we've seen here, it seems like conference season is going to be a heck of a lot of fun because there have been some really nice upsets on the road here in conference season. And I missed a couple of them early because I was figuring, just take the points with the road dogs, and then it didn't work out right away. As I mentioned, Yale got smashed by St. Mary's. Another one I like was Fresno State, but they were missing a player right before game time was ruled out with COVID protocols. They had that game close, but they didn't cover either. But outside of that, teams that have gone on the road that have played very, very well against their opponents. Tennessee hung around that game against Alabama despite not having Fulkerson and one other player. They didn't cover, but it was super close. Miami of Ohio went into Buffalo and won that game by 10 outright, despite being, I think they were 10-point underdogs or 8-point underdogs. Sacred Heart got to the window over LIU. LIU, very annoying to me whatsoever in betting. I have found myself, when I'm doing the Monumental Sports video that I do once a week at 6 o'clock down there in Washington, D.C., they say you always love the underdog. I do, because I'm going to take the points. Unless you're in a situation where you have Kansas, who we'll get into a little bit, who is just so dominant against Nevada, where I'm laying points there. I don't have a problem with it. But when in doubt, I find myself grabbing the points. For example, I understand you may not like Gardner-Webb, but in what world should Georgia be a double-digit favorite over anyone right now? Especially during the break, and Gardner-Webb beats them by 17 outright at Georgia. Tom Crean on the hot seat. You look on social media, Gus, it's, can Tom Crean win anything without Dwayne Wade? That's basically been it. So overall, when I look at these games, man, I'm saying to myself, if you are a home underdog, you have to really give me a compelling reason not to take the points. a really compelling reason, because when in doubt, I'll take them every step of the way. I even got burned with Air Force winning outright against Utah State.
Good point. And I think the other part to pay attention to here as far as like wagering goes, especially during the next 2 week segment is, and you nailed it, is the uncertainty around holiday break. The routines are not the same. The student athletes aren't going to the same classes at the same time. Their weight room session is at a different time. They have gym time at a different time. They're going to eat at a different. They don't have the same friends that they're going to hang out with because everybody's at home. So that as student athletes that are 17 to 21 years old, maybe some even a little older, when you fall out of that pattern and that routine, it also sometimes shows that on the court as well in results. So be careful. Be careful these next couple of weeks while vacation break is on at some of these campuses, and those student athletes aren't in the same routines that they normally are.
It's not a universal, many people when they're betting, they want, Gus, it's a look ahead game. It's a contrarian play. It's a flat spot.
Sure.
It's not the case. You have to pick and choose certain spots. Kansas is not going to lose at home to a Nevada team that has really struggled this year so far. Not when they have so much depth. They ended up winning by 27. But there are teams that when it's close on the road, they're going to struggle. Furman smacks Samford around. Samford can be a pain in the ass. They're going to run up and down the floor. But There are situations that you have to be careful and pick your spots. And of course, even though the shine has come off my Western Illinois Leathernecks, I still like them very much. I did not like them against Iowa the other night. They did not cover by 3. But find some teams, folks, that you like. Western Illinois happens to be mine because, boy, did they rebound, Gus. Oh, my God.
I always follow the Leathernecks now because you put me onto them, and I'm like, wait, what are you doing now?
They rebound so much that it really keeps them from losing. They hang around. I mean, they were 7-5 against the spread. Now they've slowed down a little bit, but for a while we were cooking with Greece.
You're cooking with Leathernecks. That's what you're doing. You mentioned Drake earlier, Mike, and give the listeners out there a mid-major that has treated us similar to Drake of last season that might be hiding in plain sight in the college hoop shadows, where we can actually say like, hey, this team is legit and we need to start paying attention to this team, and they might make us some money in the interim.
Why I love you is because you're actually trying to make this as if you're not setting me up to say Colorado State. I just love how you're trying to be genuine, as if I'm not going to mention the Rams, who I think I use that gif more than anyone on Twitter. And they're undefeated. They're 10-0 with Nico Medved. And oh, by the way, Gus, they are shooting 43.8%, number one among Division I teams from 3-point range. And also the number one effective field goal percentage. And by the way, they're third from the free throw line. The point is, I love the Rams. They do have a deficit inside, but David Roddy, we like to party. A power forward in a guard's body is what he is, or a guard in a power forward's body, however you want to look at it.
Right.
Big win over Mississippi State by 3. They came from behind. They were dead to rights against Northern Colorado and came back. And oh, by the way, they covered somehow in that game.
Unbelievable against AJ Green. Yeah.
And now we're going to see what they made of, because their next 3 games, Air Force at home, they should take care of business there. Boise State away, never easy. Oh, by the way, here comes Utah State. And much to my chagrin, Justin Bean is very good. But I will say that it's got to be Colorado State. They should have made the tournament last year. They were on the last 4. They were the sub team. Remember that? If somebody comes out, them and Mississippi were some of the sub teams.
Right.
I think they're going to make it. Nico Medved does an amazing job. They shoot the 3. They're all guards. Sure, if they played Arizona, would it be a problem? Absolutely. But I don't really care. I love Colorado State. I love to see them win the Mountain West. And I think right now they got to get those games out of the way. Air Force, Boise State, Utah State. If they go 3-0 in those games, Gus, look out.
I agree. Look out. And I'm right on board with you with Colorado State. When we talked to Jordan Sperber earlier this season, we brought up the point where he talked to Nico Medved on his podcast and talked about some of the sets that they run and what they do to put David Roddy into successful positions. And one of those positions is when they run 5 out. We run 5 out for my daughter's team. And so that made me feel much better about our offensive sets. Yep. When he's saying they have, when Jordan said, we have great success when David Roddy's at the 5 and we run 5 out and he's at the top of the key. I was like, okay, great. Then we're running the right offense.
Gus, I may never, ever forget. I may get a John Tonje jersey for that comeback against San Diego State last year where he hit the three and the foul in the corner to win that game. I just love this team. I love everything about this team.
Yeah, and you got Thistlewood nailing that three from the corner. I mean, what else do you want from this team? You know what? For my team, I'm going to stay exactly in the same conference, and I'm going to go with Boise State.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Boise State is on a winning streak of about 6 or 7 games, and the turning point for them is, and we say this all the time, right? Like injury sometimes provides opportunity, and that's exactly what has happened with this Boise State team. 6'7" freshman Tyson Degenhart was infused into the lineup. He has strong visuals. Go check the flow. It's unbelievable. His high-level shooting is a factor. 17 made threes over his last 6 or 7 games. Defensive impact, 2 steals over the past 6 or 7 games. The Broncos are unbeaten since he started playing major minutes. I think he's an issue. If you go and look at his stats right now, you're going to say, why are we talking about a guy that's averaging 6 points a game? I'm telling you, go back and break that down and take the small sample size since he started playing major minutes. We're talking an impact player here. So I think you mentioned that matchup with Boise State. I'm going to be tuned into that with Boise State and Colorado State for sure, because that is going to be that might be 2 of the best teams inside the conference. And this conference might end up being, I don't know, what do you think, 3-4 bid league? Like it could be one of those situations where we look up and okay, the ACC isn't as strong. Okay, maybe maybe the Big 12 isn't as strong as usual and is not going to have that list of 7 teams that's going to make it. Guess what? I think this conference is going to take up some of those bids, and I think Boise State is going to be one of those teams.
It's an excellent storyline that doesn't get enough play. The Mountain West used to be the butt of all jokes when you got into the tournament. You sat there and rooted for Xavier Thames to have 35 points, but outside of that, you knew you weren't getting much. It goes back to when those Mountain West teams, they would end up winning their conference tournament like in New Mexico when Alford was there. Won the regular season, 26-3, whatever it was.
They were a 3 seed that one year.
3 seed. My wife walks by, says they're losing to Harvard. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And sure enough, they lost to Harvard. Ever since that point when they were a 3 seed, the Mountain West has gone downhill, but this is a different team. That game, Friday, January 7th, at home against Colorado State. Right now, Ken Palm has it as Boise State by 1. That is must-watch TV. There are so many teams. And look, do not look past this Saturday against Wyoming away, because Wyoming has been a pain in the rear with Jeff Linder, who's done a fantastic job coming over from Northern Colorado. Hunter Maldonado's a pain in the rear. They're great inside, and they lost. I think it was Marcus Williams went to Texas A&M. They lost him. They didn't miss a beat. Mount West is legit. They are good this year. Boise State is always tough at home. This is a great stretch of games. Boise State goes Wyoming, Utah State, Colorado State. And on the other hand, Colorado State's going Air Force, Utah State, Boise State. What a matchup. Totally underrated. Mount West. Such a great point, Gus.
Yeah. And we, when we talked to Ryan Thornton out in Wyoming, we broke down Hunter Maldonado. He is a triple-double waiting to happen at any point. He's shooting the 3 ball a little bit better the last couple of games. And Graham Ike, literally one of the most unstoppable forces in the lane. He stays out of foul trouble. They are vulnerable. They can take anybody. He got into foul trouble against Arizona. That was the big problem. Their main scoring option out of that game against a very talented Arizona team. That's what took them out right away, and then that got ugly early. But I'm telling you, there's talent. They have shooters surrounding them. Yeah, Wyoming is one of those teams that could sneak in and grab one of those slots. I'm totally with you.
Imagine if you had Graham Ike and David Roddy on a professional wrestling tag team. I mean, that's just scary stuff.
I think they would be what, Raw tag team champs?
Yeah, what would they come up with a name? Bump and Bumper. Let's forget Bump and Thump.
All right, the listeners know that we've hustled to get out a plethora of preseason and early season chats with smart and kind guests, for the listeners. All right, Mike, let's lift the curtain here a tiny bit, right? What are 2 or 3 little nuggets that you can share from your visits with everyone from Sacred Heart to Syracuse? What are a couple of things that maybe didn't make the podcast that found the cutting room floor that you can share out with the listeners?
VCU was going to be dangerous. They needed to just get totally healthy. Wayne Epps told us about that. VCU is still a team that no one wants to play. Evan Dudley came on with you about the Blazers and talked about their pressure defense, which has just been fantastic, and that won't stop either. The two things that I was interested in is I had a chance to talk to John Griffin, the associate head coach at St. Joe's. St. Joe's tonight, by the way, came out with a pretty big win. St. Joe's played fantastic. They ended up tonight.
They beat Richmond tonight, right?
Yeah, St. Joe's went to Richmond and beat them 83-56. Just an impressive job with some of these small schools who have players who've been able to get veteran transfers who've come in from other teams, and they've put them together and done a great job. We talked, of course, Colorado State mentioned as well. I love Florida this year, and it's funny. I think I was higher on Florida actually than Eric Fawcett was. I just think they have the right mix, and eventually it will come together for them. So it was great doing that, grabbing people here and there. Scott Ritchie with Illinois, Mike Carmen, Purdue. So many great things across the board. Jesse Newell was fantastic. Had a great article Jesse Newell did with the Kansas City Star about how Remy Martin has got to start playing defense and how Bill Self is very critical of him because there's no team in the country that has more talent than Kansas does. But a lot of great stuff that I enjoyed that we found out from people and really got us ready for the season.
I was going to go more like under the curtain a tiny bit. And the couple things I was going to talk about is that when we got to talk to Gary Parrish from the Eye on College Basketball podcast from CBS, obviously, it was funny going back and forth with him because he said, hey, Gus, I can't do it today. I'm at home with my three guys. It's a little bananas.
Yeah.
He was solo. He's solo dad. The fact that he broke that down was great. Ashley Hodge from Baylor told us that he actually ran into Norlander and Parrish at the Final Four or somewhere, and he mentioned, hey, you should change up who you say from Baylor at the end of your shout-out. So I think Ashley is the guy that gives Gary Parrish all the names at the end of their podcast.
Oh, that's great.
Shout out to the random Baylor player. I think that comes from Ashley.
Yes.
And then you mentioned Evan, talked to Evan Dudley for UAB. Coolest guy going. When we did our chat video, he literally had an adult beverage and he had a cigarette and was as calm as can be.
Oh, that's great.
The guy was a complete pro and was like, yeah, this is no problem. I can do this in my sleep. He was amazing. So those are my three like under the curtain type things here for all the cool chats that we had.
Oh, that's great stuff. Yeah, and everybody is so kind, and they actually look forward to it. We'll get more next year. It's been fantastic. It's great stuff.
Yeah, it's been totally fun, and you're right. The kindness from the biggest players to the smallest players, for lack of a better term, is unreal, and it's nice the college basketball community shares that kindness, and we're happy to share those guys who work with you. All right, Mike, let's dive in a little bit here. We have this small sample size, and you and I talked about via text and not for the listeners of who we thought might be on an All-America team. We have this 10 or 15 game sample size. Who's playing at an elite level for you in our sport, and who are some of the names that you were thinking about putting on that All-America team as of right now if the season stopped today?
Well, right off the bat, the first guy who really has sort of turned around his career and his reputation has been Oscar Shibway at Kentucky. He is bringing a force inside that they haven't had for quite some time. Shibway, 15.8 points, 15.8 rebounds. What does that even mean?
I don't know.
61% from the field, 76% from the free throw line. He wants to be a round one selection and is certainly playing like it. Second, I did not know that Keegan Murray was going to turn into the second coming of Jesus here with the scoring. I remember a couple games in, I said, Keegan Murray is the leading scorer in the country, but he has brought a well-rounded attack. He sat out of the Purdue game when they played at Purdue, and Iowa still covered that spread. I may have made a wager on that, Gus. But Keegan Murray, his versatility in scoring also been very, very impressive. EJ Liddell does a little bit of everything for Ohio State. I still think he's underappreciated because Ohio State's underappreciated. The dirty work, the rebounds, all the stuff that he picks up. And listen, I can talk forever about the Purdue guys. We did that before. Last one I'm going to say, Gus, Orlando Robinson has been a very good player for Fresno State. Staying out of foul trouble. Reminds me of the old Chandler Hutchinson type guy. I mean, he doesn't step out as much as Chandler Hutchinson, but really athletic and skilled, more skilled than I gave him credit for. Big guy of Fresno. Jamal Baker has become eligible. Him by way of Arizona / Kentucky has really changed that team. So Give me, besides the obvious, give me Robinson, who has really impressed me and has taken Fresno to a level where I'm like, Fresno's a pain in the ass.
More Mountain West, more out west. Like that's beautiful. What else do the listeners want here? I would go Abaji, Kansas. I mean, you brought them up earlier. He's playing at an All-America level, no doubt. I mean, the windmill dunks aside, like he's been phenomenal for them. I agree with you on Shibway. I was high on him last year, and he's just proving to be exactly that. Paulo has been an anomaly for Duke. He's been fantastic. Mm-hmm. You know who I would include Jabari Smith in that from Auburn.
Oh, he's been fantastic. He could be the number one pick. I can't believe I'm saying that, but he will be a top 3 pick, and you could make an argument if he continues that he could be the first pick. It's possible. I'm not saying it's likely. It's possible.
I'm happy to jump on the side of the argument where he could be the number 1 pick.
Yep.
I'm very happy and very comfortable doing that. And I think if you're going to take a look at the best player at Gonzaga, I think it has to be Chet over Timmy. They play the same amount of minutes. Chet is shooting better from the field, better from the free throw line, and better from 3 than Timmy. He's blocking over 3 shots a game. I think those numbers are only going to get inflated in conference play. And once he actually finds a little bit of rhythm, because I feel like playing your first 10 games as a college freshman, it's hard to find that rhythm. You're just trying to be efficient. So I would include him in that list as well. And, and since you went, off the radar there with Orlando Robinson, which I absolutely adore and love. I think that's like totally admirable and fantastic. I adore it. And maybe we go to Wake Forest. Maybe we go to Georgia Tech. Maybe we go to NC State. Maybe we go to Miami. Maybe we go. But I think if we're going to go like really off the rails there, I would say we can just go back to your guy and just go Roddy. Like he can be included in that conversation as well. I don't see anything wrong with that. And then if we're also going to, go off the reservation a tiny bit, for lack of a better term, off the map, it's not crazy that we're going to go all the way out west and do your guy Bouye again. I think that's fine too.
Yeah. There are so many great players because of the super senior rule who have come back, who are veterans, who are absolutely live all over the place. It's made for a great season. I still haven't recovered from watching Drew Timme absolutely destroy Texas, and I still don't have any idea in that game what Texas was trying to do. Chris Beard's wonderful coach, but Drew Timme just took them apart and couldn't stop them at all. Great players across the board, though, you mentioned.
Your list is absolutely stacked as well. Let's get out of here on a couple of good ones. Best gift that you either gave or you received for the holiday season. Which one? And what was that special thing?
We're very bad with pictures. You got to take the chip and you got to bring the chip to the store, print them out. So we got like a little mini printer for the pictures for the camera with the kids, which is really, really great. So I love that. We can put more stuff up now because it's just, you got the cell phone, but the clarity isn't great. And, so that was kind of a functional thing that we really liked.
Excellent. And then how about New Year's resolutions or New Year's intention that you're willing to share for the upcoming year, or you're just going to say, yeah, just power on?
Life's about celebrations. There's not enough of them. Celebrate everything. Celebrate your kids get a good grade. Celebrate they get a bad grade. Just celebrate stuff. It's about happiness, man. We don't know what's coming tomorrow. If there's a great game on, stay up and watch it. If there's a couple times when I saw a movie that I really liked, I stayed up till 3 a.m. watching it because who knows, you can sleep later. So if you see opportunity to celebrate, go for it. You get a bottle of wine, you like it, it's too expensive, pay more. That's my attitude.
Celebrate the holidays, celebrate the new year, celebrate college basketball season, having a few games to be played and be viewed for conference play. And we'd like to celebrate right alongside of you. So thank you for letting the Screener College Basketball Podcast be one of those voices that are going to be in your head each week to keep you company on the college basketball ride that is going to look to be pretty bumpy the rest of the season, but we'll try to put our seatbelts on and strap in and keep you company along the way. Mike, anything else for the listeners out there?
That's it, man. Popcorn ready. Boise State, Colorado State. I can't wait.
Cheers, cilantro, grazie, arigato, everybody.